7 Action News legal analyst Tom Cranmer is here to offer his take on the events surrounding Bob Bashara today and also on the man police have in custody. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
You bet.
You know, big news today is that he came out with his son and his mother by his side and talked briefly to reporters. Just as a reminder to our viewers, let's play a little clip of what he had to say today and we'll talk to you about that.
We wish to thank the hundreds and hundreds of supporters and people who have shown their love and respect for my Jane. We have cooperated with law enforcement agencies and will continue to do so. Both our families grieve, and in the light of this horrific event, ask for your continued prayers.
Tom, if he didn't have a part in this, I would think people would expect him to come out and say, I love my wife, I didn't have anything to do with this, my family's very important to me.
Well, he didn't say that exactly, did he? But what he did say was that he's been cooperating fully with law enforcement, and I think, if not directly today, indirectly through his lawyers and legal representatives, he's certainly indicated that he's not guilty of the offense and he had nothing to do with it. So today I think he was trying to show support for those who have supported him, and I think that's understandable. And
paint a different picture of himself than certainly that what has been, that we've heard a lot about, right? By a grieving husband is what we saw today.
That's true, and he's in a very difficult position, of course, because a fair amount of information is leaked out. Some of it's probably accurate, some of it probably not accurate. Most criminal defense lawyers would just as soon their clients not talk during the course of an investigation, but to some extent when information like that comes out, and seemingly most of it is negative, there's some pressure on the individual to say something, and I think in part that's probably what motivated him to speak today.
You know, you think his attorney had anything to do with that? As far as let's clear your name or let's speak your mind?
It's hard to say, and again, my sense was, watching the piece, is that he genuinely wanted to show support for the many, many people who have shown him and his family's support, and I think that's entirely appropriate.
You know, Tom, I think if, as our sources are telling us, that Joe Gentz, who walked in yesterday, and according to sources, implicated Bob Bashara in the murder, I think the big question people are wondering is, if indeed that's what happened, why has Bob Bashara not been arrested at this point?
Well, that's a great question, and first of all, we have to ask ourselves, is that really true? We don't really know that. We've gotten tidbits and snippets, and people are making some assumptions that, again, may be accurate and may not. But think about it from the prosecution standpoint. If in fact they have someone who comes in and confesses like that, it's unusual, number one, and you would think that they would want to be very careful to corroborate, that is, find evidence that supports his statement, because he would be a critical witness for the prosecution in their case. So I would think from their perspective they'd want to be very careful before they bring charges to make sure they have what they believe to be a rock-solid case. And you'd also hope that they want to look at it very carefully for the devastation it could cause Bob Bashara if they're charging an innocent man. Well,
I know yesterday we were talking about the proof for arrest is much different in charges than it is in a trial, right?
Yes,
all you have to have is reasonable doubt, the big one for, of course, for a trial and a conviction. But just what, over 50% are probable cause to make an arrest.
And that's exactly right. To make an arrest, what you have to have by way of a legal standard is what we call probable cause. It means more likely, essentially, than not that an individual committed a crime. But at trial, what the prosecution has to prove, and it's their burden, they have to prove the individual guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And in a high-profile case like this, I think most prosecutors and law enforcement folks are smart enough to know we don't want to bring a case that we can't win. So we want to look very carefully at the evidence, investigate the evidence and the case up front, and then make a decision and not jump the gun too quickly.
Do you think we're close to making an arrest?
Boy, it's very hard to tell, Diane. I honestly, I couldn't answer that question. We don't know. Certainly there's some signs that would point to that as a possibility, but so much, I think, remains to be seen, and we don't really know what real hard evidence either the prosecutors or the police have at this point.
And Gentz has not been officially charged yet.
Apparently not. Yeah. And although he's been in custody, it sounds like, for a fair amount of time, and I would guess, and it's only a guess, that what the police are trying to do is trying to verify whatever information he may have shared with them.
Hard to understand how someone would implicate himself like this.
Well, that's true, and that's probably probably where they're starting with. Why would someone say something like that if it weren't true? But again, any case that they might bring, he would be a critical witness, so as a prosecutor you want to be pretty darn sure that you could rely upon what this person is saying before you bring your case.
Absolutely. Tom Cranmer, as always, thank you so much for talking with us tonight. And you can count on 7 Action News and WXYZ.com for continuing coverage on the Bashara murder investigation. We'll have another update on 7 Action News at 6.